So we're going to do something today that I've been dying to do a video on. We're going to make our own bacon. So thanks for joining us here at BuQeye Barbecue, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get our brine ready, or our cure ready for our bacon. So what I have here is I've got a total of a gallon of water. I've got 10 cups of water in this brining bucket, just cold water, and I've got 6 cups of water in this Pyrex measuring cup that is hot, just coming out of our tap, probably about 125 degrees. I want to do that just so I can mix in the seasonings and have them dissolve nicely. So here's what we're going to put in there. I've got an ounce of curing salt, or prog powder number 1, which is really just a heaping tablespoon, is about an ounce. So we're going to put that in. And then in this measuring cup, I've got 3 things. A half a cup each of brown sugar, granulated white sugar, and kosher salt. And that's coarse ground kosher salt. So we're just going to put that in. Try not to make a mess. There we go. And then I've got a whisk, and I'm just going to whisk this up and dissolve our curing spices. So you don't have to use the sodium nitrate, the prog powder. I do want to cure this. There's natural cures you can use too, like celery seed or celery powder. This is very little in the grand scheme of things with this water. I'm not worried about it. Some people don't want to use this, and that's fine, and you really don't even have to cure your bacon. Doing this, though, will give you the option of cold smoking, although in this particular case we're going to hot smoke it, which we'll get to here in 6 to 8 days. And I'm curing my shirt now because I just slung that all over me. So there we go. So now I'm going to mix this in with the cool water. I don't want this to be warm when we put the pork belly in. That's why I put much of the water in here and made it cold. And you certainly don't have to have one of these brining buckets. I got these when I did a Thanksgiving turkey earlier this year. So I've got a couple of sizes. They're kind of cool, but not absolutely necessary. Any kind of plastic container, non-reactive container with a lid will work. So I'll move this out of my way, and now we're gonna bring the pork belly in. And I got this from Porter Road. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get a couple of gloves. Porter Road is great for cuts of meat you can't find very easily. They have a lot of selection. You can find pork belly at the store sometimes. At the wholesale clubs like Sam's or Costco, you can certainly find it. Or obviously at a butcher can get you a pork belly. This has its skin removed, which you don't necessarily have to have it removed. You can certainly cure it and smoke it with the skin on, but at some point you'll want to remove the skin. If yours does have the skin, I would recommend you remove it in advance and then make some nice chicharrones out of it, which is something I'd like to do sometime. So before we put this in the brine, first thing I'm going to poke it through the fat side just to make sure the cure can really penetrate the pork belly. And then I'm going to cut this in half, and the only reason I'm doing this is because of my container size. You can certainly brine it whole, smoke it whole. Oftentimes we cut our bacon in half anyway for sandwiches or whatever, and because of the size of my container, it just makes it easier. But again, if your container will hold the whole thing, then certainly feel free to not cut it. Do you? So now I'm going to put the brining bucket back into view, and we're going to drop our halves of pork belly in the brine. There we go. Okay, so get my gloves off here. Now the nice thing about these brining buckets is it has a lid that you can fit down in. Make sure that it's pushing your meat below the brining liquid, and then twist it and it'll hold it in place. You can put a plate on top of a bucket if you've got a 5-gallon bucket to do this in. Either one will work. And then we will get our lid on it and get it in the fridge. Minimum of 6 days is what I like to do. Up to 8 or 10 even would be fine. So we're going to get this in the fridge and we will come back here in at least 6 days. We'll pull it out and we'll go on to the next step. So thanks for joining us here today at BuQeye Barbecue, and we'll see you in a few days. Okay, so it has been exactly 7 days since we started curing our pork belly to make bacon. So I'm gonna take this out and we'll go on to the next step. So here's my first piece. Now if you were to use a dry cure, you would definitely want to rinse off your pork belly. It's not as critical as far as I'm concerned with the wet cure, so I'm just going to pat it dry and get it on this rack. Now with the dry cure, you're measuring out that prog powder based on the pounds of meat that you're curing, and it's pretty important. With the wet brine that we did, we're actually just building that ratio based on the amount of water, which was 1 gallon. Alright, there's one of our pieces of pork belly. And now we're going to do the other one. So what's going to happen next is we're going to get this patted dry as best we can, and then this is going to go uncovered in the refrigerator for 24 hours. And that's going to help it dry out even more and develop a pellicle, which will grab that smoke when we end up smoking this. We'll do it tomorrow. So this will sit there for 24 hours. The one thing I did do this morning is I got a piece of this out, I don't even know which one, and I cut a small slice off of one of the ends and I fried it up. And I did that in order to make sure the salt content, the sodium level was good and not too much. If it was too much, you can go through a desalinization process where you soak it in clean water, and that can be done from 2, 4, 6 hours, whatever it needs in order to reduce the salt level. This to me was perfect. I just was in a hurry and elected not to film that, but all I did was take one of these, cut off a slice at the end and fried it up. Tasted great, not smoked or anything, so it wasn't true bacon yet, but you can judge the sodium level that way pretty easily. So the flavor was really good, and we're ready to move on to the next step. So this is going to go in the fridge until tomorrow, and we will bring you back and we will get this bacon smoked. Okay, it's bacon smoking day. So just to recap, we used a wet cure and brined this bacon in that or this pork belly I should say, for 8 days. And then we took it out, tested the salinity, which was good. I was really happy with it. We patted it dry, and now it's been in the refrigerator on a rack for not quite 24 hours, probably about 20 hours actually. But I want to get it started today, so I'm gonna skip the last 4 hours, but it feels tacky. It's got a nice pellicle. I'm really happy with it, so I'm good with the way it is. So I have a bacon, or not really a bacon, but a hanging rack that I'm going to use, and I'm going to hang both slabs of pork belly from it. And these are not very big, you can probably tell. They're maybe 6 inches square, give or take. So I'm going to put each one on the hanging rack, and I'm going to do it so it's perpendicular to the grain. So you can sort of see the way the grain is running, and it's sort of running like this. So I am going to, because of that, put the pork belly again against the grain, and watching my fingers because these are sharp. I'm going to put this, hang each one. There we go. And there's 8 spikes on this, so I'm just going to do each one on 4 of them. So there is one right there. Now I'm going to do the other one, so I'll check the grain. And by the way, you don't have to hang it like this. I just like the idea of doing that, and I think it'll allow more smoke to get to it. But you can certainly lay these on the rack just fine, no problem at all. Again, watching my fingers here, doing it slowly. And this one is a little bit thicker, so I may not get quite as much. Try to create a little space there in between them. There we go. So each on 4 of the spikes and ready to hang in the smoker. So we will bring you back in just a few minutes and show you how we're going to put this on the Cook Shack Fast Eddie's PG500. Okay, so the PG500 is coming up to temperature. I've got our bacon hanging rack, or our hanging rack, ready to go. I do have in each one of these a meter probe, so it allows me to monitor the ambient temperature and the internal temperature simultaneously, wirelessly, which is nice. I found that they work pretty good. I still trust but verify, as Ronald Reagan would say, using my Thermapen. So I'm gonna hang this in the cooker right now and let it start getting some smoke. I'm anticipating this taking up at least 4 hours and maybe up to 6 hours, and I'm looking for an internal temperature of around 150 degrees. You really only need to go to 145. I personally like to go to 150, not for any reasons that concern me as far as you know, foodborne bacteria. I just think the consistency is better, and I just like to go to 150 on this. So we're going to get this in the smoke, and we'll just keep monitoring it. Again, probably 4 to 6 hours. So I've got the upper rack, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but I've got the upper rack in the PG500 still, and I've got the lower rack out so this doesn't hang and touch the rack. So I just removed it, so it's just hanging over the drip pan, or it will hang over the drip pan. So here we go. There we go. So just gonna hang it in there just like that. And pardon the camera shake, but I'll get you a little bit closer maybe so you can see it a little better. And when we check on it the next time, I'll maybe use another camera and get in there closer, but it is just hanging in the cooker and the smoke is rolling. So we're going to get this thing shut and keep an eye on it. By the way, I have the cooker on the lowest possible temperature, which on this one is 170 degrees. I will monitor it because it will fluctuate up and down, which will be fine. It's not going to hurt anything. But if I see it's getting a little too high on one of its up fluctuations, I might just open the door and let some of the heat out and then reclose it. Because I definitely don't want to get this too hot at any point in time. So we will bring you back. Okay, we're almost well, a little over 2 hours in. Not going to be much to see here, but we'll look at that hanging bacon. Starting to get some color and starting to render the fat. I can see it glistening there and dripping down. So looking good so far. At least another 2 hours to go, I'm sure, so we'll bring you back. Okay, the cooker is running about 170 exactly. The internal temperature of our pork belly / bacon is at around 105, so we still got a ways to go. I'm gonna flip this around for that consistent cooking that we're looking for, and then we'll come back sometime probably in the next hour or two. I expect we're still a couple hours away from pulling this. Okay, so 7 hours later, our pork belly is up to temperature. Both are sitting right at around 147 internal, so they will creep up to my 150 to 152, which is sort of what I'm going for. But we have made it to 145, which is safe for any pork roast type of meat to eat. So we're gonna take these out. I'm gonna get the cooker turned off here. I have gotten in and kind of turned this probably about 4 or 5 times just to keep our cooking even. They look absolutely beautiful. I hope you can see that on the camera. But that is a couple of good looking hunks of bacon. So we are going to get these in and let them cool off, and then we'll bring you back, talk about what we're going to do next. Unfortunately, we're not going to be eating these tonight. I do want to let them rest and let that smoke flavor really penetrate this pork belly. And so we will bring you back here in a few. Okay, so we're letting our bacon rest. After it does, I'm going to take it off the hooks, and then I'm going to use our food saver to vacuum seal it. And from there, we're just going to put it in the fridge and let it rest overnight. Tomorrow we will get to slicing, but I want that smoke to just keep penetrating, and I just want to let it rest before I do any slicing at all. Technically you could slice it and fry it up right now, but I want to give it a day, as much as it pains me, because I'm dying for a BLT sandwich, which I think is how this video will culminate. But we will bring you back tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll get this in bags and in the refrigerator. Okay, after 9 long days, it is bacon cooking day. So I've got the food saver bags. One is still in the freezer. They have been refrigerated overnight, and they've been in the freezer for about 20 minutes just to make them easier to slice. I have a home slicer, but I'm not super fond of it. It was really cheap and just wanted to try it. I'm hoping that using the knife works fine. We'll see. But this looks great, exactly like you would expect bacon to look. So, all right, so grain is running, it's hard for me to see here, saw it fine yesterday. Grain is running like this. So I want to cut against the grain, so I'm going to, just like that. I'm going to cut a couple of slices and then we'll look at them. And we like thick cut bacon for the most part, unless I'm wrapping something in bacon. So I'm going to try to make these reasonably similar, but without a mechanical slicer. Just got to do the best I can. Like that one's way too thick. But it'll allow us to have some crispy pieces and some pieces that aren't as crispy. So, hope you can see that. Looks good. Looks good, although I think I might have started slicing this the wrong way. I'm going to turn this and see how they look. Either way, they'll still be fine. I'm not concerned about it. We're going to culminate this video with some BLT sandwiches. So stay tuned for that. This really smells good too. So there we go. I hope you can see that. Looks really good. I cannot wait to cook this up. So again, it's actually safe to eat. It was cooked to above 145. But obviously that's not the way we traditionally eat bacon. So we are going to cook this on the pellet cooker. I like to cook bacon on a cookie sheet lined with aluminum foil, essentially for easy cleanup. I like it a lot better that way than frying it in a pan, although let's face it, bacon can be cooked about any way and it's still pretty good. So what I'm going to do, I won't keep you here for this whole slicing. I'm going to finish slicing this up. Then I'll get it on the tray and we'll meet you outside at the pellet cooker. And we will get this bacon cooked up for our BLTs, and we'll do a taste test as part of that as well. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Gosh, this looks good. Okay, so we've got our bacon all sliced up. The other half of this pork belly is sliced as well. We're going to food save that and put it in the fridge. Because it does have that Prague powder #1, it will keep in the fridge for a while. But with bacon around here, there's always something we're doing with bacon, so we'll use it in the next couple of weeks either way. So I'm going to get this on the pan. In the meantime, I'm turning on the Fast Eddie's PG 500 to 300, and I think I'm going to go 325. Reason being is sometimes I've noticed it running a little hot, and 350 is a good temperature for this, I think. So I'm going to set it at 325, and then I'll just keep an eye on it. So I'm just going to start spreading this bacon out. Some slices and pieces are bigger than others, but frankly I see that in store-bought bacon as well. This is pretty thick sliced stuff here. Now there are other things you could do with this too, like if you wanted to have a black peppered bacon or whatever. I really wanted to go basic for this just because. Just wanted to make sure it turned out okay. I've done this once before, but a lot smaller pieces of pork belly, and it just wasn't the same. They were already sliced, yada yada. So it was definitely a different experience, but I think this should be pretty good. We'll see. And ultimately we're going to make 4 BLT sandwiches tonight for our family dinner. So that is what I am, hopefully this will be enough for that. Looks like about 20 slices or so, so I think that'll be plenty. And I think the rest of this I'm going to take in and add to the food saver bag of the other bacon, the other part of the pork belly. See if I can get one more piece. We definitely need a piece or two to try, not on the sandwich. And I think that's pretty good. So we're going to get this on the PG 500 in just a minute, and we'll bring you back for that, and then we'll let this bacon cook. Okay, so we're going to get our bacon in the cook shack in the Fast Eddie's. So it's not even close to temperature yet. It's running about 150 degrees, and I'm going to hook up my ThermalWorks signals as well, just to have a belt and suspenders as far as the temperature goes. I just put a lot of work into this. I want to make sure it's cooking at the temperature I want it to. So we're ready to go. There we go. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Every time I see somebody cook bacon on a YouTube video or something, they always say, you know, 20 minutes or something like that. In my experience, bacon always takes longer. I don't know how these folks are cooking it, but if this takes less than 30 minutes, I'll be shocked, and I wouldn't be surprised if it takes nearly 45 minutes, especially because we're not up to temperature yet. But we will keep an eye on it. We'll bring you back if we come out and take a look at it, and we may even end up flipping each piece of this bacon over. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. So we'll just see how it's looking, and we'll go from there. So we'll see in a few. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes, at least 20 minutes since the cooker came up to temperature. I'm just going to check this bacon. I don't think it'll be ready for anything, but it's coming along nicely. It's not done. I think I'm going to real quick flip each piece over just to make sure we're cooking evenly. Yeah, and it definitely, you can use a flip. The underside is not nearly as brown as the top. So we'll get this done and probably check it in another 15 minutes, but this is coming along and it should finish here soon. So, excuse me. So we'll bring you back. Okay, this bacon is done. So I'm just gonna turn the cooker off and just leave the pan in here and just use tongs to get this off onto a plate. Smells great, looks really good. So I'm just gonna do this bottom layer here and get a good shot of the bacon here for the camera, and then meet you inside to taste the bacon and build a sandwich, which is what we're having for dinner tonight. So again, remember this pork belly was cooked to temperature already, between 145 and 150 yesterday. So this is just frying it up like you would bacon that you buy from the store. Really looks good. I hope you're getting a good view of that. So we will see you inside. We'll try it and build a sandwich. Okay, so our bacon is inside. Perfectly done as far as I'm concerned. Definitely thicker, so perfectly browned, not too crispy at all, which is sort of the way I like bacon. But let's face it, as long as it's not burnt to a crisp, bacon is good almost any way you have it. So I'm going to do a quick taste. I think I'm going to maybe use this piece right here. It's a lot thicker. It was just an end cut and won't be great for a sandwich. And I'm going to do this taste off camera because, as is often the case with our BuQeye videos, BuQeye barbecue videos here, the family is waiting for dinner. So I'm going to give this a try. So good. So I tried this the other day to make sure it wasn't too salty. It was great then. Now it's got the smoke flavor added to it and cooked up just like you normally would cook bacon, and it is really good. So I'm going to get set up to make our dinner here, and we will bring you back in just a second. May as well do the sandwiches on camera as well. Alright, so let's build some sandwiches. I've got 4 sandwiches ready to go here. I just have some artisan style sourdough bread. So I'm actually making a Caesar BLT. So this is homemade Caesar dressing. If I could ever figure out how to put one of those cool windows in with the links to another video, I would put it there. But until I figure that out, you can just look for that in my list of videos. But it is definitely really good and worth doing yourself, as opposed to buying a jar of Caesar salad dressing. So when you put something that's mayonnaise based with this, which this is, on like the bottom piece of bread of a sandwich, it helps it keep it from getting soggy, because the oil in the mayonnaise will repel the water and the liquids that will make your bread soggy. So just something to know. So I'm going to load this up, each one up with some Caesar dressing. Wait till I tell the boys there's anchovies in it. Okay, next we're going to get our bacon going on each one. So I think we'll start out with 4 pieces on each sandwich. We should have enough for that. I've done a sandwich or 2 on the channel. I like a really good sandwich, so I think this will fit the bill. We'll see. All right, we got a few extra pieces of bacon, so I'll just divide those out evenly. Oh, and one more in my hand. All right. Next, we're going to put a little lettuce on each one. And this is romaine lettuce, just kind of keeping in theme with the Caesar dressing and the Caesar BLTs. Man, that bacon's good. So while I'm finishing building these, it's so worth it doing this bacon at home. So much better than store-bought bacon. And really not, you know, I said it was something about it being difficult or something in one of the last video clips. I really didn't mean that. It wasn't hard at all. It was just time consuming. So when I said I had spent a lot of effort or something, I really meant time, because none of it was hard. Here we go. We're making these big sandwiches. I looked at one of my videos in the past, I don't remember which one, and I was so unimpressed with the way the sandwich looked on camera, so we're going overboard here. Mrs. BuQeye Barbecue was kind enough to slice the vegetables, and I actually came back and asked her to do a little more. And she was kind enough to do so. So there are our sandwiches. Having trouble keeping the tomatoes on it. There goes one trying to get away, which ain't gonna happen. So there we go. So I'll just use this one as my example. We'll take our knife, give it a cut right down the center, and we'll go ahead and try this too. So that bacon is great by itself, but nothing like great bacon on a sandwich as well. Thanks for sticking with me. I don't know how long this video is going to end up being, but it'll be a little longer than usual. I appreciate you being here. Take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you don't mind, and we'll see you next time.